Well, this is where it gets. We were gonna talk about a bunch of Democrat policy stuff, but let's just go here.
Better.
Okay.
You ready? You guys ready?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
From Slate. My husband won't take his
Oh my
mask
goodness,
off
yes.
even for sex.
Uh-oh.
We're
What?
both vaccinated now. When will this stop?
That's horrifying.
So this is mask derangement syndrome, and I blame the media freaking out. So this guy apparently maybe it's a prank. Maybe someone wrote a letter like, haha, I'm gonna send it in.
I don't know. I'm convinced that this real people exist like this.
Oh yeah. I mean, have you seen the videos that people are screaming about
Yeah,
masks? Like they lose their minds. It's just stay away from the people if you like if they're not doing what they're supposed to be, like if they're supposed to be wearing a mask in the store and they don't want to and they don't, ignore them. Stay away from them. Don't go near them. It's the weirdest thing, because if you were worried about getting sick, why would you go up to the person and start yelling at them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm not going to read everything, but this lady is saying that like he won't take his mask off at all when he's eating. She says he pulls it up to expose his mouth, quickly pulls it back down between bites. While he does not insist I do the same, I can tell it bothers him that I don't, especially because I have now started going maskless outside per the CDC guidelines, and plan on restaurant dining inside soon for a girls' night out. She says even during love making.
Huh.
Is that what you call it? Like, I don't know.
That's what
if
married
I
people
that.
call it.
Sometimes,
No,
yeah.
I'm saying like when you got a guy who's wearing a mask so he can't, you know.
You saw The Naked Gun? When they
What?
had to
No.
use protection when they had sex?
Oh, yeah, the full body suit.
That was love.
Dude, these people have gone
No.
crazy.
And the thing is, there's no science behind it. We always hear trust the science, and I think people forget that the mask was originally if you're sick to prevent the spread, right?
No, it wasn't.
Oh.
Really? Because in Asia, it's
Oh, yeah,
always,
yeah. I'm sorry. You're correct.
Yeah, yes, because in Asia, that like for a long time, mask culture has been a thing, but it was never just everybody all the time. It's that if you have a runny nose, you think you might be sick, you don't want to spread it, you put your mask on, and then
Because I was going to say at first, Fauci said, you don't need to be walking around with masks. Maybe
Yes.
it protects a droplet. That's how it, that's Fauci, right?
how
And
it
then
all
and then he
began.
flip-flopped,
and then everyone needs to wear masks all the time.
And it was really funny because conservatives in the beginning were the ones wearing masks.
Yes, yeah, I remember that.
There was one point I was in
Dude.
LA and I had the N95 mask,
Mm-hmm.
and it protects you from breathing things in, filters it, but then when you breathe out, it just breathes out.
That's right.
So it doesn't protect you from the droplets of
It
Fauci.
doesn't protect others.
Yeah.
But that was the whole point of masks. But people didn't know and didn't care because they would just see me and they'd be like, oh, he's got a mask on.
Well, they
big deal.
then banned them, and like net gaiters and all that stuff. But man,
But it was like the psychology of it was more important than what they were actually doing. That was what I noticed.
I just gotta say, I remember when this first was going down, like when everything was starting, and I had a bunch of people on the right messaging me like, "Get masks now! You're gonna want to wear them." And then it's like this weird thing started to happen where it started to
Reversal,
flip,
yeah.
and I'm just like, that's hardcore tribalism. People were like, wear masks, then they were like, conservatives all of a sudden decided not to wear them.
I don't think it's tribalism. I think it's just being contrary. I think that's all there is to it. Good or bad. They're
Right.
just no.
It's tribal.
Absolutely not.
It's tribalism.
You think it's tribal?
Yeah, the conservatives are anti-establishment and wanted to be contrarian.
Yeah.
So they decided now all of a sudden they were going to defy the orders. When Fauci was saying don't, they were like, you're crazy, and they went and bought masks. And then once it switched, and all of a sudden like Trump didn't wear a mask, I guess, all of a sudden everyone's like, bah. It's just the weirdest thing.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting to see how this has unfolded with the evolving knowledge we've had about COVID. Because I remember when stuff first started happening, I didn't go out because I was scared. My dad's immunocompromised and things like that. And we were getting crazy footage out of Wuhan, like people like collapsing in the streets. It was insane. But then what's weird is that as we found out more about how COVID spreads and about how lethal it was and things like that, for a lot of people, I think that would have been reason to kind of ease up, like, oh, okay, it's not as bad as we were thinking. We didn't know, but now we actually have numbers in. But for a lot of people, it was the inverse. They actually got more panicked, and that's because the media was reporting on it more, even though all of the data we were coming in was good news for us.
I think it's widely tribalist. I mean, we heard from David Hogg. He was like, okay, the CDC says if you're vaccinated, you can take your mask off, but then people think I'm a conservative, so that's it. It's virtue signaling because the culture war tribes are so distinct now.
Mm-hmm.
There's people who are terrified of being viewed as a member of the other tribe.
CNN really has a hand in causing the fear too.
Yes.
Veritas uncovered that guy explaining that we would put the COVID death numbers on the screen intentionally because
Gangbusters.
it got good review, it got good views, it got clicks, it got good, what do you call it when
Ratings.
people want? Yeah, it got good ratings. To
he
scare
said it was
people.
gangbusters for the ratings.
Gangbusters. Have them. You know, if it bleeds,
The
it
death
leads.
count.
Yeah.
He was.
They were
these
scaring
are
people on
depraved,
purpose for
dude.
ratings, and now we're seeing the lash.
Does that work? Does that work? You like
Yeah.
scaring people?
Well, it
I mean, it worked for them.
works. It gets ratings, but it actually destroys society in the process. So,
Yeah.
like, is that working? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I could say something like, viewers, there's vampires. Oh no! Oh, and there's zombies and werewolves. They're everywhere.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. You remember Orson
Or are they
Welles?
gonna get if they get scared now because people are scared like people are scared of vampires,
In
right?
the
So our ratings
20s
are gonna go up now.
yeah, I
It's
think
possible.
so.
They'll share the video.
If you have connections to government and you're able to actually hype up government with your like own reporters going up to, let's say, Saki and saying like, "What are you doing about the vampire menace?" Like,
I'll just
yeah,
do,
that
uh,
might work.
I'm Dr. Fauci, and vampires are really bad. So wear your neck gaiters because they'll bite your neck.
I think in the 20s, War of the Worlds, Orson Welles, he had a radio show with
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
theater group,
Yeah.
and they did this radio show called War of the Worlds where they were like, aliens are attacking, and then people thought it was real. So I've heard that some people were killing themselves because they were
I don't
they thought
know.
it was the end of the world.
Wow.
But people were like going out in the street and like looking up in the sky for the
I think
aliens.
it's an urban legend.
It
That
could
people
be.
thought it was real?
I don't know how to confirm
Ian,
it.
Ian,
or
I'll tell you
not.
what is real.
Israel.
Israel.
well, yes.
Where are we
no,
going?
no, no,
We're going with this.
Uh-oh, look at the chat.
We got derailed.
a guy and a woman who are about to get are they married or whatever? I
Oh,
think-
this
Yeah,
is a
they're
great
married.
story.
Yeah, husband.
yeah,
and wife.
married. They're on the verge of divorce because he won't take his mask off during
Wow.
sex.
Did
And
she
so the
say that?
lady actually tells her, like the Prudence or whatever, responds with like, take him to therapy,
Yes.
and then if he doesn't respond, like leave him.
What are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
Dude, that's creepy.
No, but that's not anything to do with actual COVID. Like, COVID is not the problem here. There's something underlying that. And I think it's so true for all of these other authoritarians who are crazy and obsessive about this. It's not really about the pandemic because the numbers don't support it. I think it's a form of social control.
It's media derangement syndrome, but you know what I find fascinating is that it's a sorting algorithm essentially, right? So there are free thinking, independent people who believe in personal responsibility. These people have politics that vary from economic left to economic right. So you'll get someone who's like, you know, a disaffected liberal, intellectual dark web, a moderate or a conservative. But then you have people who just don't know, don't care, don't want to know, and don't want to care. These are the kind of stories that are shuffling them into two different groups. One group is a bunch of mindless drones who believe insane things. Trump is a Russian agent. And then the other group are people who are challenging the establishment. Now, don't get me wrong. You got fringe, you know, right-wing people, Q and whatever stuff. But that's the minority. That's not a large faction. And the easiest way to understand it is the prominent conservative voices or the prominent anti-woke or anti-establishment voices are not fringe. Like, they're not crazy. They're rational. They're fairly moderate. On the left, the prominent voices are fringe, wacko conspiracy theorists, like Rachel Maddow claiming that Russia was going to shut the... What if Russia shuts the power off to Fargo in the middle of the winter? What are we going to do? And, you know, Donald Trump, Russia. And then they had the guy, Jonathan Chait on MSNBC, who was like, Donald Trump may be a Russian asset going back as far as the 80s. That's the mainstream institutionalized left. What's the worst thing you get in the Republican Party? The Republican leadership, it's an oxymoron. They're just like milk toast. Mitch McConnell's like, well, I'll be a speed bump for the Democrats. And then you get, what, Marjorie Taylor Greene? That's the worst the Republicans can muster.
Essentially. And what's frustrating is that there's no long-term memory or heck even short-term memory when it comes to defining what is and what is not a conspiracy theorist. I mean, we saw this with the vaccine, COVID, Wuhan lab thing. You know, we have screenshots of the media just ripping apart Trump for saying that it could have come from a lab, and now it's like, oh yeah, maybe it did. And it's funny how quickly that narrative changes, and it's based on who's saying it. Which
Fauci.
Is, yeah.
Fauci comes out and he says he's not entirely convinced that that COVID was naturally occurring, and now all of a sudden, all of these stories are being just flipped. Think about how insane that is, because I'll tell you, headlines change because they realize they were wrong. That means every link that used the headline now has the incorrect headline. That doesn't change. You go on Reddit and look up the archives, look up the rankings, and you'll see a story that says Trump pushes debunked conspiracy. You click it, and then it says, you know, update. This is actually, you know,
Like,
plausible.
actually, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it is
so
true.
you look at Wikipedia. How many articles exist right now on Wikipedia that say things and use those stories as references that have now been changed? See, the Wikipedia editors aren't going to go back to a bunch of these articles, some which may be obscure, and change all them. So there you go. The whole system is fried from this insanity. And I don't know what it is. I can tell you that we used to have journalists that, I guess, competed with each other, but now they all walk in lockstep. And it's all about social acceptance. So you could find, or I'll put it this way, a good journalist is always researching conspiracy theories because they hear a crazy story. Did you hear about government politician who, was doing this and that? And imagine, you go back to the Watergate. Imagine if someone came out and was like, Richard Nixon is doing this, that, and whatever. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. Oh, you're nuts. I'm not going to bother investigating that. Could you imagine if that's how journalism was back then? At least I did something about it.
Well,
Now-
they don't really investigate things anymore. I mean, one of the only investigative journalists is James O'Keefe. Now it seems like journalists just go on Twitter, retweet each other, talk to each other, and there's no actual, first-hand probing or investigating unless it's doxing some grandma who voted for Trump in 2016 because the Russian Facebook ads. Yeah,
Going to her house.
Exactly.
And then James O'Keefe is the one who gets banned because when he does something similar. It's interesting about Veritas because I think James is very obviously conservative, but it's clear that the things he's active about are much more about honesty in journalism and in corporations because he's not doing stories for the most part that are benefiting some kind of Republican agenda in terms of taxes or pro-life. It's usually like we caught someone lying. We got Facebook's manipulating. It does benefit conservatives because conservatives are getting censored for sure. Maybe that's just where conservatives are at right now. But you look at Vox and the New York Times, and they want a political agenda. They want a hard outcome. They specifically want what the Democrat wants, or they're just willing to say whatever they have to say to fit in with the Democrats. I think it has a lot to do with social media. I think it has a lot to do with urban centers, monopolizing journalism, basically. So the people who work at the New York Times want to fit in. Mm-hmm. So what do? Sitting down at the bar, and they're in the back of their Brooklyn, speakeasy, whatever. And then one person says something, and the other person just says, whatever you say, tell me what to say, and I'll say it because I want to fit in.
The fitting in thing's disturbing. It does suck to not fit in, especially, ostracization could lead to death back in the ancient world if you're thrown out of the city, but
and unemployment nowadays.
Right. And being canceled off the internet. It's pretty rough, but still, falling in line to a corrupt system seems way more dangerous than losing access to it.
I would rather sleep in a bin, in a dumpster, than live on my knees for these people.
Yeah, you got to at some point. Why? I did that with the entertainment industry in Hollywood. It was so gross. I could have been easily a millionaire. I was making, good money as working commercials in LA and just.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.